I love putting things to use. All right, so we're moving on to the next section. I have it labeled under community, but this is basically, your venues, where you play, who you can play with, what exactly you are playing, things like that. The game that survives on the backs of, its players actually playing it. And I did collect a lot of data on this, and it's data. Well, before I even go into that, Tucker knows. We've heard from Tucker for the last couple months already. There is no gaming in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Oh my God! You know how last week I was driving to a playgroup? Yeah, there was no playgroup. They lied to me. I drove 6 miles for nothing.
Poor Tucker. But Joseph, you actually still have some venues going, which is always a good thing.
Yeah, there's three within easy driving range of me. One of them usually has OPs at the same time as the other one, so I only plan 2.
Mm-hmm.
But not a bad problem to have, I guess.
Oh yeah, and your things are in here as well. So let me go ahead and bring this one up. So this is a nice little spreadsheet I have of all of the data that I collected, not only from the people who volunteered it when I was asking, on the forums and stuff, tell me about your venue, what kind of rules are you using, but also I went on to the WizKids event system just to see what people were actually still hosting events on that, and that was disappointing. But
Oh wow, sorry, we're delayed on the spreadsheet. That is a really pretty spreadsheet.
It's got colors, but
it's got colors and formatting and yeah, I like spreadsheets.
I've got a whole bunch of colors on here. There were, I'm going to say, 36 responses. There was one guy that posted like 5 different places, but all 5 of them have shut down in the last 6 months. And they were all in Indianapolis, Indiana. So that didn't help with my numbers too much. But we have a huge variety here, from places that run only OPs to places that don't even have... oh, sorry, that should be an OP only. Places that don't run OPs, that are only custom only, or people that run, one custom actual event for every, 3 months, or like ever switching back and forth between what they do. Like Da Vinci's DreamWorks 2 is one of the most impressive ones on the list, and I'll give that to Steven. He was over at Worlds. But they do 3 to 1 custom to OP events every month. So 3 weeks custom, 1 week OP. They have a player base of 19 different players each month, basically. Like, that is the largest I have seen in a long time, and that is definitely up from the last time I was there, sometime last year, when they still were at around 8 to 10. But
I have to check out. There's like one store in California, maybe, that I know of that might be competitive with that, but that's nuts.
Mm-hmm. So
is that every week, or is that just for OPs?
That is how many different players show up among the different weeks. So OPs might be like 8 to 12, but not always the same 8 to 12. Things like that.
Gotcha.
But so as for that's for unique players.
We're pretty close to that in terms of unique players, actually.
Mm-hmm. Unique players that play officially, not the ones that There's still some that just come by to only play casually, but again, a lot of the ones that play casually also get into the places that run a lot of the custom scenario events as opposed to just OPs. But there was a huge range from completely ignoring all of the new rules restrictions. The most surprising being that like 75% of the people of the locations on here run by official rules, official rule suggestions, the 50 point, the mothership limit, all that kind of stuff. A few of those which I put as separate would be running faction and or ship pure. That would be, I counted that under bans. So you have every kind of different thing from no 50-point limit. You can only use the resource from your last event, down to playing 150 points. No 50-point limit. No 3 ship limit. A couple places that actually ban a significant number of banning. Just specifically Big Borg, and even some of those are starting to second guess with the new restrictions. But there's also a significant number of banning of officer exchange program.
So banning officer exchange correlates very highly to playing in like ship pure faction pure, where it would be basically banned anyway.
Mm-hmm. Because there are some that use it and there's some that don't, and there's some that ban it and some, or of the ones that run some kind of purity, there are some that ban officer exchange and some that don't. But the one thing that all of these have in common is that no matter what kind of ratio of OPs you had, no matter what you've been banning or rules you've been playing, like it seems to have like absolutely no correlation on whether you have an increasing gaming population for Star Trek, or if you have people just packing up and leaving. Like you can see kind of from the colors here, like it's pretty much dead on even 50-50 for positive, which is blue, and negative growth, which is red. All of the yellow ones, there was one place, which is the Hobbit Hole, which is in the UK, that's been steady. But everything else has been, all these plus and minuses, these are places that had like 8 to 10, and then they dropped down to like 4 or 2, and they're just now starting to bounce back a little bit with like 4 to 6. Like, because with this one, like, what is it? Chimera, has about 11 people now. They had a high of 16, but it dropped down to 8 within the last 6 months, and then it's starting to come back again. And there is a lot of that. So there's definitely been a lot of exoduses from this game, but the really nice part is that I've got like six venues on here that are new within the last 6 months, and I like the sound of that.
That is really nice.
The problem is that what it seems like is that if a store has run Star Trek and at any point has stopped running Star Trek, it will not come back. Like the store is done dealing with it, and if you keep going that way, you're basically like fighting a war of attrition.
So, remind me to talk about that when we get to the WizKids thing.
Mm-hmm. But under the WizKids event system, this was just going around through the, different kind of locations that I could get of the U.S. In Florida, we have basically 2 venues, and in the last 6 months, 4 have shut down. North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia area, there's 1 new venue, 5 have shut down in the last 6 months. In Texas, 5 has shut down, 2 are still running. Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana area, 8 have shut down in the last 6 months. There are currently no one advertising events in the last 3 months or upcoming events in that area. It's just a whole lot. For every 1 store that's running, it seems like there are at least 2 to 3 that have just shut down since around February, March of this year, if not sooner. Some of them went back as far as November, but even before that, like I'm certain there were places that shut down, between June and July of last year, but I didn't even go back that far. Like. Stores are dropping off at a very frightening rate, at least from my perspective.
Hey, Will, Canada Clark in the chat is asking, are we going to post the spreadsheet somewhere? I think you should.
Oh yeah, definitely. I will have a link to it in the YouTube when this goes up, and I'll post it on the Facebook page.
So one thing we don't have, by the way, wait, in that count, did you include California venues?
The ones that responded, I've got
No.
The two
I
game
mean, scroll down to
castles.
the.
I've got Game Castle Fremont, Game Castle Santa Clara, and Heretic Games in San Bruno. Oh, and
No, and
Gameplay
you've
in
got
Del
other
Mar.
ones like. But did you include a count of California stores in that regional
Oh,
thing?
No, I don't think I did.
Okay, well, all right. Well, I
There
will.
were a
I will
lot of
work on that.
regionals.
I mean, I feel like, as far as I know, I have confirmation that my old store in Los Angeles is still running events. I don't know how frequently.
Mhm.
So at least one of 3 venues is. I see ads for JJ stuff, which I think is local to California. I think it's Northridge.
Arizona, Nevada, New Mexico, pretty dead, as you can probably attest. Colorado
Yeah,
still has a
there's-
couple running acts, which is nice though. But they had
We've got a man on the ground for that one.
good.
Oh God.
Colorado
There's
still has one or
tumbleweeds.
two.
There's literally tumbleweeds.
But
If
like,
you
there's no
pictured
advertisement.
me standing in the middle of the desert with tumbleweeds blowing by, it would not be inaccurate. Okay, I'm done. Sorry.
But no, like even in like the South Carolina, North Carolina area, there's no advertisements, and that was where they had like one of the regional events. Like the only thing that I know of is that there was supposed to be a big event this weekend of all 3 Q Continuum. But now I'm starting to feel like that was because they had no one else to play the last 3 months.
That might be the case. I don't know. We'd have to ask. That's Jonathan Bruce's gig.
Is it? It might be.
I think so. He was the one that was getting annoyed when I was advertising Stephen Toots' amazing Q3 thing at Gen Con. Go play, people. Mr. Anami in the chat, who's in Indianapolis, go to Gen Con, play his event.
That'd be cool. But yeah,
We
it was
have-
also nice that this wasn't. It was also nice that this list wasn't only limited to the United States, because I definitely got a couple, more than a few, submissions from Canada. Of course, I mean we've got Joseph here to help out with that. We got a couple. We have a few in England, a few in UK, a few in Australia, and
Wait.
yeah, like it's nice to know that there are still things. We had one from Croatia, I think, but they don't actually have a store. There's like 4 of them, and they get together and play games. So that didn't quite make the OP event list.
Good for them.
Good for you playing Star Trek wherever you can. But it seems more like there are like dedicated pockets of Star Trek resistance, quote unquote, than there are like it being a normal game. Like the Florida is only on the map because of Da Vinci's DreamWorks, thanks to Steven, pretty much. Not to say Critical Hit Games is bad. It is not doing its share. If you are watching Stump, because that's where I play every once in a while if I can get a chance. There's a pretty good showing up in like New York, New England area, kind of. Seems to be a pocket in Ohio, Indiana, Chicago. Illinois is actually doing okay, and then there's the pocket down in like California.
Yeah, also, I noticed missing from this list is apparently Mount Vernon, Ohio has a ton of people, or at least enough to support a lively scene. That's where Jared and Adam, who were at Worlds, are both from. I found that out because that's actually really close to where my dad grew up. It was one of those
Gotcha.
deals.
Yeah, Ohio actually, when I was looking at Ohio, it also got a little bit of Indiana and Michigan and stuff. Like, apparently they still have, like, 7 venues within, like, the 200-mile radius. But that's actually still, there's been, like, 15 that have shut down in the last 6 months. And that was, like, crazy numbers.
Well, let's move on to talking about... The third topic Will wanted to talk about was WizKid's support for the game. And I think we should move on to that because I think that has a lot to do with why a lot of venues will not go back to Attack Wing.
Mm-hmm. So just to wrap up part 2, take this as your official. I don't even know what the word is right now that I'm looking for, but your official seal of approval from us. It doesn't really. Whether you are, a ship faction purist, whether or not you are a suggested rules follower, whether or not you are, just banning things left and right. Whatever you're doing, if you've got players, you're pretty much doing okay, because there hasn't been anything that has been proven to positively or negatively affect player growth, across the board. Like, it's all
Which
everyone.
is nice.
Yeah, everyone. It seems to be more focused around what I'm kind of extrapolating is that people that have a core group of just gamers that get together and game already, that are already friends and stuff, and then they just found Star Trek Attack Wing together.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how it keeps going, because eventually, if you don't have that, it seems like you get you can get your 6, 7, 8 people, but as soon as people start dropping off, and it just seems to keep going from there.
I remember on Will's, I was reading through some of the replies to Will's inquiries. I remember one venue that died because a bunch of people, went to college. Literally, they grew up. So, it's that sort of thing.
They grew up.
Yeah, that's it. It happens. Well, our group kind of fell apart because they just changed the day that we had. We've been doing Wednesday for 12 months, and then they said we can't give you Wednesday anymore, and we lost 75% of our remaining players there. We tried doing Tuesday for a few months, and then it just died in those following 3 months.
We had some similar stuff to that. There was a venue in Kitchener, and normally it was on a different weekend from the Guelph venue, from the Dragon, and then they scheduled it on the same weekend, and the Dragon's prize support is way better, so no one showed up to their event, so then they stopped running them.
That's unfortunate.
And it was just that, they were getting as many as 10 players, but they decided because no one showed up that they would stop running it.